strengthen the faith of the believer all the time. You go to the kitchen to feed your stomach, and you read Quran to feed your spirit, your soul. It's strengthen your iman, spirituality. It clarify your mission in life, remind you that you were created for a big job that has big goals to be fulfilled, and you have a short time to do that, and that time can be over at any moment.
Recording in progress.
Again, that short time can be over any moment, and therefore you have to be realize who you are, what is expected from you. And because the job is big, it's a huge, very demanding, it requires always, and because the distractions of life are also many, we need always to be reminded and to be strengthened in the face of all the temptations and distractions of life, and in the face of all the challenges that we face when we are serious in fulfilling our mission. Again, that's why Quran is needed all the time, and that's why we are not doing the right thing by neglecting it. Even those who read it sporadically or even read it regularly, and if you are not doing it the right way, you will not get all the benefit. So it's a very essential, and the relationship of Muslims with the Quran is a good indicator of their superficial understanding of Islam and their shallow commitment to it. Because if they understood Islam properly, the same way that the companions understood Islam, if we made the same commitment, then we find ourselves very driven to go to the Quran, to seek guidance and to seek strength and to seek clarity of vision. And so, but because we did not do that, we don't have that understanding, didn't make that commitment, we fell in the trap of feeling that our religion is known, we know it, we know what we're supposed to know, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and therefore there is no need to do anything more or to learn anything more. And that's very bad, and that has to be fixed. The other thing that we need to remember, that this Quran was doing this in real life. So this is not a theory book. It's not like, it was a book that was dealing with reality. It was building a new community on new foundations completely. We're talking about a world that was dominated by ethnicities and tribes, races, and the Arabian Peninsula in particular were very tribal society. So the identity comes from belonging to the tribe, and you support your tribe regardless and what they do, right or wrong. And here comes a revelation that is building, transforming individuals and building and cementing and shaping a new community on a very different foundations. There is no room for race here. There is no room for racism. There is no room for any privileges. There is no room for, and there is a mission. There is a mission. There is a community that is built to fulfill a mission. That's unheard of at that time. Very shallow life, very empty life, including the companions themselves. Before Islam, they used to be part of their societies, living very shallow life. So keep that in mind. That's what Quran is doing. So when you see like emphasis or debating the people of the book, because Muslims were challenged at that time, because they were dealing with the idea, which was very prevalent and accepted, that the Jews are the chosen people, are the people who have a monopoly over religion. They are the only ones who understand religion, and etc. And that was accepted. And the fact that the Arabs at that time have nothing to do with religion. These are the illiterate. These are the Ummiyin. These are the Gentiles. And now they are claiming they're having a message for all humanity. So no wonder why they were met with very fierce resistance, because basically this is a message of change that has disrupted the status quo. There was a status quo in which, of course, there are people who are privileged and people who are abused. And this is a religion or a message that came to change that. So keep that always. We have to like get ready when we open the Quran and we're going to read with reflection. We have to remember these fundamental things so that we make the maximum out of the Quran. We're going to start in verse 163. إنا أوحينا إليك كما أوحينا إلى نوح والنبيين من بعده وأوحينا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وعيسى وأيوب ويونس وهارون وسليمان وآتينا داود زبورا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us here that of a very fundamental idea, which is that the fact that all of the messengers came with the same revelation. We have sent revelation to you as we did to Noah and the prophets after him, to Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, and the tribes, to Jesus, Job, Jonah, Aaron, and Solomon, to David. We gave the to other messengers. We have already mentioned to you, and also to some we have not. To Moses, Allah spoke directly. That's next verse. Allah spoke directly. To Moses, Allah spoke directly. ورسلا قد قصصناهم عليك من قبل ورسلا لم نقصصهم عليك وكلم الله موسى تكليما. 163 and 164. I mean, because there was, why this emphasis? Again, because there was a debate. What's this message? Where it is coming from? Why now? Etc. So Quran is telling them there is nothing new here. This is a message like the messages before. So we revealed to you like we revealed to these, and those are all known and accepted messengers at that time. And then comes the idea, the purpose of these messengers. رسلا مبشرين ومنذرين لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل وكان الله عزيزا حكيما. رسلا مبشرين, messengers bearing good news and warning, so that mankind would have no excuse before God once the messengers had been sent. Allah is Almighty and all wise. So what's the purpose of all these messengers? لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل. So giving the good news, warning, مبشرين ومنذرين, and then so that there will be no excuse. Now this requires that we stop a minute to reflect on this. لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants this shahada, this testimonial or testimony to be done. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants his message to reach each and every person on earth. How do we do that, or how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that? He sent messengers, many of them. Each one was sent to his people. And then what? And then he sent the messenger to all humanity. Now, how that goal will be achieved? It can be achieved only in one way. One is that the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will continue the job, will make sure that this message reaches everybody, so that لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل. So that each follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes Rasula Qawmeh, that the emissary of his own people. You do exactly the same job that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. Why? To achieve that goal. Now, how do you do it? By the way, this goes along with the concept of shahada ala nas, لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. يكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس. So in two places, one in Surah Al-Baqarah, and I invite you to also review that, and that's one, it's really foundational verse. Surah Al-Baqarah, لتكونوا شهداء على الناس is verse 143. وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. And it was mentioned at the end of Surah Al-Hajj. At the end of Surah Al-Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says ليكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس. So this idea that your job is not done until you reach the point, like the point that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached when he said, "Ala had ballaghat, Allahumma fashhad." Yani, by example, by good advice, you should bring that message clear to everybody, so that they make a conscious decision, so that you can stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say that I did it. I tried to exemplify Islam in my behavior, and then I tried to convey that message in the best possible way. And your job ends there, but it has to be done. But ends there. Beyond that, it's a responsibility, it's people's decisions and responsibility. Some Muslims, they have done exactly the opposite. They didn't do the first part. They did not represent Islam properly or convey it properly, but they judged people. I mean, which is, it runs exactly opposite to what they are supposed to do. So unless you deliver the message to everyone you can reach, and before that, of course, it's by example, and they go hand in hand. And if you are not a good ambassador of Islam, no message will work, or your message will not be effective at all. So لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل. Just compare that to our reality nowadays. Muslims, many of them represented Islam either in a very bad way, or at least in a way that is not really attractive or impressive. Whether as individuals or as community, we are not really that model that can be impressive or attractive. And that is hurting us even with our children. Because one of the major problems that young people are facing here is lack of role models. Lack of role models at home and lack of role models in the community. So it is about time for us to realize that you're not representing yourself. You're not free to do whatever you want. You are representing a religion. People are going to make an impression about your religion and about Allah, your creator, from your behavior. So you have to be really, have to conduct yourself in an exemplary way, not even an average way. Very impressive, very compassionate, very fair-minded, serving, helping people, and honesty, you name it. On all counts, we have to try to really excel, and because we should keep this in mind, that لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل. Just imagine on the day of judgment, people around you, one will come and say, I heard nothing from him. The other say that his behavior or her behavior was not even actually made me hate Islam, because of the way they interacted and because of cheating or lying or because of rudeness or whatever, because of any reason. Imagine that. Imagine ourselves having people around us on the day of judgment coming and say, and having an argument against you. And Allah is telling you that we should do, if you are true followers of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you should do your best so that there will be no argument, that people will have no excuse. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا. And then subhanAllah comes the other verse and say, لكن الله يشهد بما أنزل إليك أنزله بعلمه والملائكة يشهدون وكفى بالله شهيدا. And whether you do it or not, whether people, this is addressed to believers and addressed to those who are rejecting it, both. Whether you accept this message or not, whether believers do the job or not, at the end of the day, who's testifying? Who's bearing witness? Allah himself. But Allah himself bears witness to what he has sent down to you. He sent it down with his full knowledge. The angels too bear witness, though Allah is sufficient witness. Amazing. So calling us to be witnesses, shuhada ala nas, and calling on people to accept. But at the end of the day, whether people accept, whether you fulfill your job to be true witness, it doesn't matter. Why? Because Allah is bearing witness that this is the truth. لكن الله يشهد بما أنزل إليك أنزله بعلمه والملائكة يشهدون وكفى بالله شهيدا. Of course, reaching that point, now, as usual, Quran alternate between language of like the carrot and the stick, or the language of appealing and then threatening, and then so that, and all of this has one purpose, is guidance. So even when Quran talks about punishment and etc., it's a wake-up call. It's basically another way to call people to do the right thing. إن الذين كفروا وصدوا عن سبيل الله قد ضلوا ضلالا بعيدا. إن الذين كفروا وظلموا لم يكن الله ليغفر لهم ولا ليهديهم طريقا إلا طريق جهنم خالدين فيها أبدا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا. Again, that's alternation of the Quran, inviting you and appealing to you, and giving incentives, but also giving warning. Those who have disbelieved and bared others from Allah's path have gone far astray. Allah will not forgive those who have disbelieved and do evil, nor will he guide them to any path except that of hell, where they will remain forever. this is easy for Allah. وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا. Here we're talking about people who not only rejected, but also they are bearing others from following. وَصَدُّوا عن سبيل الله. And also, again, keep in mind that the word kafaru, in that context, in the Arabian Peninsula at that time, it is more than likely, or 99% of the time, it is associated with people who are hostile, who are fighting that community, who are conspiring against that community. We're not talking about someone who rejected this message and lived in peace with that community or did not do anything wrong. Almost, there is hardly any exception that at that time, the kufr or those who rejected the message fought the community. So we're talking about enemies of the state, or we're talking about people who were conspiring or fighting the community most of the time. But also, Quran warns those who reject the message to call them to think again and to call them to the straight path. And then goes to address all humanity. أيها الناس وقد جاءكم رسول بالحق من ربكم فآمنوا خيرا لكم وإن تكفروا فإن لله ما في السماوات والأرض وكان الله عليما حكيما. So, and then whenever it states these rules, that individual accountability or personal accountability and what's going to happen to believers, what's going to happen to disbelievers, it's always reinforcing that idea that there is no chosen people, there is no, whether Muslims or Jews or anybody, it's only what you do. And and there is only one standard and one rule. And why this has been emphasized over and over again? Because that was very prevalent at that time. And it was accepted. It was accepted that some people have certain privileges, either spiritual, religious, or even materialistic. So it always, Quran emphasized this idea of fairness and one standard, whether in this life or in the hereafter. The messenger has come to you, people, with the truth from your Lord. So believe that is best for you. That's an amazing statement here. فَآمِنُوا خَيْرًا لَكُمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling people to believe because it is in your best interest in this life and hereafter. You're not doing Allah a favor by believing. He does not need it. He does not need anything. If all humanity decide to reject his message, that's not going to affect him in any way. And if all of them become so pious, that's not going to affect Allah in any way. It is khayran lakum. فَآمِنُوا khayran lakum. That's something that we always have to remind ourselves of it, that when you do what you're supposed to do, even if it is not convenient, and when you refrain yourself from doing something wrong, even if it is very tempting, that's in your best interest. Why? Because you have to remember that Allah, one, knows you more than you know yourself. Two, loves you more than a mother loves her baby. Three, loves the best for you. So when you are pursuing the good pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are doing yourself a favor. فَآمِنُوا خَيْرًا لَكُمْ. So believe this is the best for you. For even if you disbelieve, all that is in the heavens and the earth still belongs to Allah, and He is all-knowing and all-wise. Remember, again, a reminder that at the end of the day, if you disbelieve, that's Allah, everything on earth and heaven and earth belongs to Allah, and that's not gonna affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way. After that message to all people, now go back to أهل الكتاب يا أهل الكتاب لا تغلوا في دينكم ولا تقولوا على الله إلا الحق إنما المسيح عيسى ابن مريم رسول الله وكلمته ألقاها إلى مريم وروح منه فآمنوا بالله ورسله ولا تقولوا ثلاثة انتهوا خيرا لكم إنما الله إله واحد سبحانه أن يكون له ولد له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا. Remember the previous passage was debate mainly with the Jews and was exonerating Jesus and Mary. Now is addressing the other extreme, which is, the first extreme was accusing Mary of fornication, etc. Now, going to the other extreme, which is loving and revering Jesus to the point that elevating him to a state between creation and the creator. So يا أهل الكتاب لا تغلوا في دينكم غير الحق. People of the book, do not go to excess in your religion and do not say anything about God except the truth. The Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was nothing more than a messenger of God. His word is God's word, conveyed to Mary a spirit from him. In the same way like was done with Adam, Allah blew in him from his spirit. So believe in God and his messengers and do not speak of Trinity. Stop this. That is better for you. God is only one God. He is far above having a son. He is far above having a son. Everything in the heavens and earth belongs to him, and he is sufficient protector. This is very strong verse. You know that the original Christianity, of course, did not have the Trinity. And only when there some pagans entered Christianity and politicized it, some politics get involved, that this version was produced. And subhanallah, very simple concept of God in Islam that makes you, first of all, makes a lot of sense, very logic, and then eliminates any confusion. It's basically there is only one creator who created everything else. Very simple. There is only one creator, that God by definition can only be one. There even Quran discusses, if there are more than one, they will be fighting for control, etc. So Quran is discussing with us logically to convince us that by definition, you say God means only one. And then Quran and Islam comes and say there is creator, one creator, and everything else is creation. There is no, don't confuse things. And there is nothing in between. Angels, yes, they're very special, but they're creation. Messengers, yes, they're very special, but they're creation. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. So the same statement that was mentioned about Isa, alayhi salam, إِنَّمَا الْمَسِيحُ عِيسَى ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. And in Surah Al-Ma'idah, مَا الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. And then وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. Muhammad is only a messenger. Jesus is only a messenger. So yes, there are people who may have creation, may have special stats, but that does not take them out of the category of creation, because there is no gray area. There is nothing in between. There is one creator and there is everything else is creation. Yes, Jesus was created in a special way. That's true, but that's still creation. Adam was even created in more special way, but still is creation. Hawa, Eve was created in a special way, but still it's creation. So it's amazing how the pure Aqidah makes it so simple, so straightforward that Jesus, Muhammad, all of these angels, etc., no matter how many miracles they have, no matter how they were created, no matter what they have done, no matter how pious they are, you love them, you admire them, you respect them, you revere them, etc., but still they remain as creation. So don't do this excess. Unfortunately, by the way, the excesses are happening with all the emphasis of Quran is happening among Muslims. Some of them they go to the extreme in dealing with pious people. They start call them awliya and etc. And then even they go to their graves and then they grant them very special power, even though somebody has died, has no power whatsoever. Some Muslims nowadays, the way they deal with the leaders of their parties or the leader of their sect goes beyond the limit. And that's not to any particular sect, by the way, even the Sunnah involved, included in this. So no excesses. You have you love your prophet, you respect your leader, etc. But still keep that in mind that there is no category between the creation and the creator. And Allah, there is only one creator, everything else is creation. So it's reminding us that even though it was created in a special way, and but that does not make him anything more than a messenger. فآمنوا بالله ورسوله ولا تقولوا ثلاثة انتهوا خيرا لكم. So آمنوا خيرا لكم, انتهوا خيرا لكم. إنما Allah, this is very strong. This is like Surah Al-Ikhlas. إنما الله إله واحد سبحانه أن يكون له ولد له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا. It's really again Quran full of doses of Tawheed, but this is really one of those very strong ones. So إنما الله إله واحد exclusively, and then سبحانه أن يكون له ولد, يعني لم يلد ولم يولد, and then له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض, يعني وكفى بالله وكيلا. So it's not only آمنوا خير لكم وانتهوا خيرا لكم. This is best for you if you believe, if you stop this Trinity thing. But this is, when you say كفى بالله وكيلا, it's that basically he's far from having a son. Everything in the heavens and earth belongs to him, and he's sufficient protector. So it's not only believe is best for you, stop this is best for you, but you, when you have the correct faith and believe, you have Allah who's going to protect you, and he is the best protector. Sufficient protector. And then لن يستنكف المسيح أن يكون عبدا لله ولا الملائكة المقربون ومن يستنكف عن عبادته ويستكبر فسيحشرهم إليه جميعا. Quran, when it wants to honor Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, calls him abd, servant. يعني سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده. So here is doing the same thing with Isa, with Jesus, saying that the Messiah would never disdain to be a servant of God, nor would the angels who are close to him. I mean, it's an honor. I mean, if you think you want to honor and revere Isa alayhi salam, call him Abd of Allah, because that's an honor. It's not like trying to find something else more to honor him. No, that's enough. That's enough honor for a person to be a servant of God. So the Messiah would never disdain to be servant of God, nor would the angels who are close to him. Even the angels, that's the you honor them, they are ibadullah. That to be servant of Allah is an honor. So don't look for greater honor, because then you're gonna mess up. وَمَنْ يَسْتَنْكِفْ, and then he will gather before him all those who disdain his worship and are arrogant. ومن يستنكف عن عبادته ويستكبر فسيحشرهم إليه جميعا. فأما الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فيوفيهم أجورهم ويزيدهم من فضله، وأما الذين استنكفوا واستكبروا فيعذبهم عذابا أليما ولا يجدون لهم من دون الله وليا ولا نصيرا. This is something that Quran over and over, almost in every page maybe, there is a reminder of this thing, that remember that you have a mission to fulfill and you're going to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون. Do you think, or do you never forget that you're not created in vain with no reason, or you're not going to be brought back for accountability? So this is something that is Quran emphasized in many times, but in different ways, and that's from the eloquence of the Quran. So he will gather before him all those who disdain his worship and are arrogant. To those who believe and do good works, he will give due rewards and more of his bounty. It's always that incentive. There is an incentive for people, and even the warning is also an incentive. It's basically warning people so that they come back. To those who are disdainful and arrogant, he will give an agonizing torment, and they will find no one besides God to protect or help them. You see the contrast? وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا over there, and here لا يجدون لهم من دون الله ولا يجدون لهم من دون الله وليا ولا نصيرا. And when you believe you have Allah is going to be your protector and He's sufficient protector, and then you reject, you are on your own. In this life, you are on your own, and on the day of judgment, you will not find anybody to help you or to protect you. And then conclude with يا أيها الناس قد جاءكم برهان من ربكم وأنزلنا إليكم نورا مبينا فأما الذين آمنوا بالله واعتصموا به فسيدخلهم في رحمة منه وفضلا يهديهم إليه صراطا مستقيما. Only Quran can do this. I mean, this is anybody who tried to do this is going to be redundant. Only Quran can do the same thing, say the same thing in 2 consecutive verses, and you don't feel any redundancy or any repetition. It's basically repeating same thing, repeating يا أيها الناس, just a couple of verses ago, يا أيها الناس قد جاءكم الرسول بالحق من ربكم. Here يا أيها الناس قد جاءكم برهان من ربكم وأنزلنا إليكم نورا مبينا. And then the next verse is very similar to the one that we just recited. So it says, people, convincing proof has come to you from your Lord, and we have sent a clear light down to you. Allah will admit into His mercy and favor those who believe in Him and hold fast to Him. He will guide them towards Him and on a straight path. He did not, this time did not mention the other side. He mentioned only the people, the reward for people who believe. So you can see that in verse 173, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَيُوَفِّيهِمْ أُجُورَهُمْ وَيَزِيدُهُمْ فَضْلًا. Over here, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاعْتَصَمُوا بِهِ فَسَيُدْخِلُهُم فِي رَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلٍ وَيَهْدِيهِمْ إِلَيْهِ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. He will guide them towards him on straight path. So yes, it's given. Yes, something it's known, but you and I know that we tend to forget it. And there is a lot of distraction in life. There is a lot of temptations. And we need to be reminded even of those basic things. So yes, there will be a day when we're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we're going to be held accountable. And that should be a strong motivation for us to do our best while we can and to have a sense of urgency, because that moment can happen at any time. So we're racing against the clock, big job and limited time and short time to fulfill it. So that's always reminding us of that, because we need it. We need to be reminded. And because of that relationship, superficial relationship with the Quran, or neglecting it or abandoning it, we tend to forget that. If we were reading Quran with reflection and contemplation on a regular basis, we're always going to have our spirit vibrant, spirituality vibrant, our iman strengthened, our spirit nourished, and also our minds clarity, things become clear, because Shaitan is working all the day, all the time, to blurry things and to make things confusing. The surah concluded with the rule, fiqhi rule, يستفتونك قل الله يفتيكم في الكلالة إن امرؤ هلك ليس له ولد وله أخت فلها نصف ما ترك وهو يرثها إن لم يكن لها ولد فإن كانت اثنتين فلهما الثلثان مما ترك وإن كانوا إخوة رجالا ونساء فللذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين يبين الله لكم أن تضلوا والله بكل شيء عليم. They ask you, Prophet, for a ruling. Say, Allah gives you a ruling about inheritance from someone who dies childless with no surviving parents. Kalala is someone doesn't have children, doesn't have parents. Childless with no surviving parents. If a man leaves a sister, she is entitled to half of the inheritance. One sister. If she has no child, her brother is her sole heir. Also same thing. I mean, the same sister, if she died before him, and also he will inherit her. If there are two sisters, they are entitled to 2/3 of the inheritance between them. But if there are surviving brothers and sisters, and then the general rule, the male is entitled to twice the share of the female. Allah makes this clear to you so that you may not make mistakes. He has full knowledge of everything. Of course, we're talking about building a new community. It's mainly aqidah, it's mainly faith, it's mainly spirituality, but also the challenges, but also brotherhood, but also cleansing hearts, but also rules. And again, the rules of Islam, we go back to the fundamental questions of ijtihad and the relationship between revelations and the intellect. Where do we draw the line? Of course, a lot of time, unfortunately, it's easier to go to one extreme. The hardest options is to strike the balance, which is that how can we understand and figure out the overarching goals of a purpose of Allah and the overarching goals of Islam, and then try to achieve them within the boundaries of the fundamentals, things that are constant. And I don't want to say we failed to do that. We didn't even try. We are not trying, because the other two options are easier. The literal meaning, stick to the text and just freeze your mind. That's a very easy option. And the other extreme, also an easy option. You just put the Quran on the side and then exercise ijtihad as you wish. That's also easy option. We are yet to try or to find the balance, which is that the revelation is meant to enlighten our brains, guide it, establish some boundaries, but not to cripple and not to shackle our brains. It's actually to free them. It's actually to just cover the areas that we are not equipped to deal with, which is what you call the ghaib. Anything that we cannot use, our brain was not made to work on it. Life after death, what's going to happen, day of judgment, there is something that's we're going to have to rely completely on revelation. On the other hand, when it comes to this worldly life, managing this world, developing it, etc., we should rely heavily on our intellect, inspired and guided and enlightened by revelation. It's the toughest option, and because unfortunately we tend to be lazy, we went for those two extremes, and we were swinging like a pendulum between those two extremes almost all throughout the history of Islam. And we need to make the effort to, even though it is more challenging, but that's the right thing to do, is try to understand the essence of this religion. What is the mission of Islam? What are the maqasid? What is the purpose of Allah? What are the overarching goals of Islam? How can we achieve them within the boundaries? What are the fundamentals? And we cannot make the list of fundamentals longer or shorter. And we cannot make things more rigid than they are. Remember that ijtihad started from the time, not the time of Umar al-Khattab, time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. The time that, since the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, people made ijtihad. There are decisions that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq made were pure ijtihad. Was not even the companions opposed him in some way, because they were on a literal meaning of hadith, and he used his intellect and believed at that time, or thought that's the right course of action. So again, you understand that as Islam was building this new community, was working on all aspects: cleansing hearts, strengthening faith, clarifying, spelling out the mission, dealing with the challenges and the attacks and the intimidation they were exposed to, building those brotherhood and cementing that community together. But also this new community needs rules, and also gave them rules to manage their lives. We'll stop here, inshallah, and if you have any questions or comments.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ghanoush. May I have a question, please? As part of your lecture today, speaking about the greatness of Allah, as Muslims in the 21st century, what are we to make of people who are rejecting and denying the existence of God, the atheists? How do we evaluate that school of thought? And by extension, those who kind of even downgrade our prophets, like the Danish cartoonists and the reaction from the Muslim community, would you be kindly remarking on those? Thank you.
Good. I'll start with the first one. We don't need to evaluate anybody. If we have done our job is to be role models, to be the best ambassadors of this religion. From the time we wake up, all the time, we should really remember that and hold ourselves to very high standard because of what we represent. and then take advantage of any opportunity that comes our way. We have to prepare ourselves also, educate ourselves, understand our religion to the point that we can teach it. Unfortunately, we're not doing these. And then we're focusing a lot of time on evaluating people. We don't evaluate anybody. We focus on these two tasks. One is for me to be the best ambassador of this religion, develop myself into role models, represent Islam in the best possible way, hold myself to the very high standard at home, at work, in the street, while driving, whatever I'm doing, in the shopping, whatever I'm doing. And second, with the people I'm interacting with, I prepare myself also, I educate myself so that when I have an opportunity, and I may even create an opportunity, I can articulate Islam in the best possible way. If I did these with a person and that person chose not to accept this religion or any religion, that should not affect anything else. I mean, that person is going to still remain your neighbor, is going to remain your colleague, etc. And we should not confuse things or mix, and leave him to Allah. You did your job. It's between him or her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second part of your question, we feel bad when our prophet is attacked, but that's not a license to respond in any way. And sometimes, not sometimes, some responses were wrong and created more damage than good, and were in excesses, and in some cases criminals. Mistakes are not to be corrected by mistake. You need to channel that anger in a constructive way so that you can build public opinion, you can to change policies, to restrain legally the ability of people to defame other religion or provoke people. That's the wise way. That's the smart way. That's the Islamic way. Islamic way, yes, you see degrading or defaming cartoons about your religion, about your prophet. You become angry. That's normal. Then you ask yourself, then you use your brain. Okay, what is it? What's the best course of action? First of all, what is permissible? Going to kill a person, that's not permissible. What is religiously permissible? What is legally permissible? Because you are bound also by the law. You chose to be a citizen, then you signed the contract, and as we're going to see next week, inshallah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. Honor your contracts. All right? So what is permissible? And then within what is permissible, which option, course of action will bring the maximum benefit and minimum harm or minimum damage, or maximize the advantage, minimize the disadvantage. People, they should construct that and channel that anger in a constructive way, build a public opinion, because there are a lot of fair-minded people. When you tell them this is not about Islam, this is about every religion. We want to limit this this kind of ability of people to provoke and defame each other religions. We cannot live together in peace like this. So if you can manage to build public opinion around it and then push it into some legislation or some legal restrictions for this, fine. Otherwise, that's all. That's nothing beyond that. Those options that people go and burn things or kill people, etc., these are not even on the table yet. These should not be even considered. And never mind that they're causing more damage than good, but they are wrong from Islamic perspective.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Dr. Can I ask a question? In the ayah 171, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Isa ibn Maryam Rasulullah wa kalimatuhu. I've heard about that Isa alayhi salam was the messenger and also his word. Can you elaborate on that? You know, his word.
I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but it's because if you continue, there is also a ruhun minhu. Was nothing more than a messenger of God, his word conveyed to Mary, a spirit from him. We don't know the details, but I think we should be okay or enough for us to know that Jesus was created in a special way, like Adam was created in a special way. And there is also another commonality, which is the ruhan minah, because also for Adam, Allah says that وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ, blew in Adam from his spirit. I mean, even if you compare the two, even though that's not, comparison is not proper because there is nothing harder or easier for Allah, but even if you compare the two, actually the Adam was much more special. I mean, this is someone who was made out of clay. I mean, no father, no mother, clay, and then Allah blew in him from his spirit, and then he became a human being. I mean, even by comparing, the way Adam was created was much more special, but still, that it's enough for us to know that he was created in a special way. Allah blew, it was from his spirit, and Maryam, whatever, created his no father. That by itself is a special way, and therefore we stop there. I mean, we limit it there. After that, he is a messenger. Now we can add that to the miracles. We can add, because Jesus had miracles, we can add his birth as one of his miracles. Moses has great miracles. Does this make him, elevate him above the creation? No, still creation. So again, I start by saying I didn't do like a lot of research on this, and I believe that for us Muslims, it's enough whenever we should focus on the Quran, on the part that has more implications in our lives. And it's enough for us to know that Jesus was created in special way, and but did not make him more than a human being and messenger.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fahad. I wanted to know about the connection between Iman and good deeds, as we see many verses in Quran emphasize that Iman should be followed by good deeds. So how different is it from Islamic perspective compared maybe to other faiths? Because I remember one of my classes, we were told that some concept of good deeds that people practice is not really considered or acceptable in Islam. Like, for example, the building of orphanages, or there are so many examples, I forgot others. But yeah, my question is that, like, what is good deed and how is it different maybe?
I mean, good deeds there are no limits. Basically, first of all, the Islam or the Iman that does not translate into good deeds is useless, and we can. So that's why you see this combination all the time in Quran between Iman and Amal Salih. There is a verse in Quran that we covered it, and I strongly recommend that everybody, recommended that at that time also, that everybody memorize it and master it, actually, which is Surah Al-Baqarah 177. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. سورة البقرة verse 177. البر is answering your question. Bir is good deeds. What is a good deed? So the answer to your question is in a verse of the Quran. 177, Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, goodness does not consist in turning your face towards east or west, because this was revealed in the context of changing the direction of the Qibla. The truly good are those who believe in Allah and the last day, in the angels, the scripture and the prophets. So that's the iman. And now goes good deeds. Who give away some of their wealth, however much they cherish it, to their relatives, to orphans, to needy, travelers and beggars, to liberate those in bondage. Those who keep up the prayer and pay the prescribed alms, who keep pledges whenever they make them, who are steadfast in misfortune, adversity, and times of danger. These are the ones who are true, and it is they who are aware of Allah. So, part of it is iman, and then charity, mostly charity, and then ibadat, worship, and then character, because when it says keep pledges, when they make them, and are steadfast, these are representation of akhlaq. I mean, this didn't list all the character, like it did not list all the worship, but these salah and zakah representing all the worship, and then keeping pledges and remaining steadfast in misfortune, adversity, etc. That's representing akhlaq. So, bottom line, the true Islam has to be reflected into an intensive and high quality worship, into helping others and working for the greater good, whether it is through charity or through advocacy, Amr Ma'ruf wa Nahy an Munkar, and exemplifying the character of Islam, khuluq al-Islam. Now, the last thing I want to say about Amal Salih. Some people choose the convenient good deeds. We shouldn't. You should try to figure out what needs to be done, not what you like to do. Because we are supposed to meet the expectation, not just to do something. So doing what needs to be done. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you at this time to be helping someone who is in dire need for your help, you cannot say, no, I'm going to use this time to read Quran or to pray. No, it's not. Even if it is, one of them is more convenient to you, you have to try to do يعني أن لا يراك الله حيث نهاك وأن لا يفتقدك حيث أمرك. يعني when in the day of judgment, when a person will be told, you heard about so and so sick, but you did not visit him. Didn't you know that? Oh no, it says by saying, Allah telling the person, I was sick and you didn't visit me. And the person say, how come you are sick? Say, no, didn't you hear that so-and-so was sick and you did not go to visit him? Didn't you know that if you went to visit him, you will find me there? Meaning that you were expected to be there and you were not there. So Amal Salih has to be understood that you have to try to meet the expectations. Try to find out what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do and do it. where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be at this moment and be there. And not choose just what is convenient. Like somebody say, it's more convenient for me to pray and read Quran, so I'm going to stay in the masjid. I'm not going to do Amr Ma'ruf and Nahy Munkar because I don't like it, or I don't want to, so I'm not going to volunteer because I like this better. No, it's not up to you. It's wajibul waqt. Try to figure out and understand what is it that is needed from you, needed to be done, and what is it that it is expected from you, and do your best to do it.
MashaAllah, thank you so much. Barakallah fiqh. I have another question about there's this concept of knowing yourself is knowing God. I think it's in Sufi. Can you please elaborate?
You need to know yourself and you need to know God. So they're not mutually exclusive and they're not one and the same. Knowing, you need to do both. You need to work to know yourself, know your strength, and preserve them, and know your weaknesses and try to fix them. That's very important. And by the way, that's not only will guarantee you success in the hereafter, even in this life. You want to succeed in this life, you need to know your strength and capitalize on them, and you know your weakness and work on them. But also knowing Allah is a key. We talked about this repeatedly in khutbah, that knowing Allah opens the door for everything, because the Prophet ﷺ promised that if you know Allah, you will love him. Man araf Allah ahabba. You love Allah, you become very motivated to worship and to serve and to learn. And that will bring you closer to Allah until Allah loves you. And that will close the circle. So it's, and again, it's very unfortunate that Muslims do not make the effort to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though the tools are available, because the most efficient tool to know Allah is Quran. Quran, Allah revealed himself in Quran. Allah in Quran is telling us, most of the Quran is telling us about Allah, about his names and attributes, what he likes, what he does not like, etc. So you want to know, get to know Allah, study the Quran, not read it. Study the Quran. Also the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 99. Why we don't memorize them? Why we don't know them very well? Because they define Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the creation. Why we are not people who are eager to try to understand the human body, to understand this universe. And nowadays the tools are there. I mean, YouTube is full of documentaries and educational material about anything you can think of at any level. You don't have to be a scientist. You can get material that are very basic and show you the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about this universe, when you see how planets are millions of kilometers apart, and how this earth in this universe becomes a very small dot, that like you need a microscope to see the dot itself. This earth that is looks like so huge when you fly, you see how big it is, in this universe becomes only that. So exploring the universe, إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. The more you get to know the creation of Allah, the more you get to know the Creator.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
If nobody has any question, we can see you, Dr. Suhail, next Sunday, inshallah, 12 noon.
Jazakallah khair. If you know
Jazakallah.
someone who can benefit, if you see this beneficial, and you know someone who can benefit from this, invite them at least the first time, and then let them decide. If they like it, they will stick around. They don't like it, they may leave. جزاكم الله خير.
السلام عليكم.
السلام.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Rashid.